in the dark, I play my dreams. Permaculture flows like sweet streams. I'm the daddy with the know-how seed. Creating the world like it's meant to be. Permaculture, P-I-M-P, I'm the king. Wrapping love in everything. Bring a change, making it last. Join the permaculture on the rooftop.
Oh, yeah. Welcome to episode 304 of the Permaculture Pimpcast, where PIMP stands for Permaculture is my passion. The only Pimpcast on planet Earth where we discuss permaculture, preparedness, and practical living. That's right. All right, y'all. Well, this episode, as always, brought to you by Hickory Ridge Soap from twooldcrowshomestead.com.
Turn that simp into a pimp.
Bam! Living Soil Foundation. Oh my goodness, man. I'm hoping to have some really good news for y'all here in the coming weeks, but I'll come to that in a minute. But anyway, I want to thank everybody out there who's donated, because your money is going to do some unbelievable stuff. You people are really something else. Yes, I said you people. Yeah, she gives me all kinds of nonsense every time I say you people. You see, I'm a little brown, so I can get away with that. But anyway, want to give everybody a shout out for coming in. If you're in here, please hit that thumbs up. It lets them know to go ahead and start suppressing us immediately. Oh, shoot, hit the wrong thing there. And we're having something of a computer glitch right now, but hopefully we'll work our way through it. You can't see it on your end, I hope. But on our end, Michelle got some new software on this thing, and it's like the colors are changing on this thing, and I don't know why. And frankly, she doesn't either. So anyway, I want to give everybody a big thank you for everybody that's donating out there, because we are definitely moving the needle, and we're going to be moving it even more here in the future. So, well, I want to give a shout out to Renewed Homestead, Denise over there handling the all the stuff in the chat. So as always, y'all, don't start no SH and there won't be no IT. That's how we roll. All right. So we're going to jump right into the farm news right off the bat. And, well, our son, our daughter-in-law, and our grandbaby have been here for, they were here for almost a week. Yeah. So that was fun. Yeah, man, it's amazing, because in your mind's eye, you always, whenever you see kids, especially when it's somebody else's kids, you remember them the way they were the last time you saw them. Even though we see pictures all the time, you just don't have that interaction. And when you do, it's mind-boggling. So Grandpop got all of her kisses, and yeah, so I didn't save none for Grandma. So what do you think about that?
Oh, she gave me plenty of kisses.
Yeah, yeah, I was away doing a couple of things, and yeah, she was spoiling her rotten. So she is a little sweetie, and man, it was a real joy to be able to hang out for a while. So still just trying to recover from, man, it seems like I've been going nonstop for weeks, but that's the nature of this time of year. But a couple more hurdles to jump, and I'm hoping to take, when I don't take a break like most people do. I don't just not do anything. I mean, there's always something to do around here, and your animals don't put up with you taking a day off. So you're always going to have to do something, but I'm going to slow down a little bit. And yeah, I'm going to be making a lot of big changes here. So just stay tuned for all that. So anyway, farm news. Well, outside of the family visit, we did a sheep processing over at Renewed Homestead, and got a lot of people trained on how to process a sheep. So folks, like I've talked about before, you can even see it in a lot of the videos I do. They're great in that you're able to see it, and you can do a paint by numbers sort of thing. But if you're able to do it three-dimensionally, there are things when you do things in person that I can't explain. There's no way to explain. It's like doing a compost class online. There's certain things that I cannot convey. Like, okay, if you're standing there in front of me, I can say, okay, this is what it smells like. This is what the moisture content should feel like. Okay, these are, there's certain senses you have to use that I can't necessarily teach you. And it's also the same thing when it comes to butchery classes. You can absolutely positively learn it, but it's the things that I can't show you on YouTube that, if you want that stuff, we do have a pig processing course, but the parts that I think are most important when it comes to processing, you can't even cover on YouTube. And that's how to dispatch the animal, and how to gut and skin. You cover those things on YouTube, they'll basically take the video down. So I'm not able to show any of that. And if you ask me, that's really some of the most important stuff. And when you go to a lot of these conferences or homestead gatherings, that's the one thing they can't show you, because let's say they're having it in an arena or something like that. They're never going to be able to show it. So they show up with an animal that's already dead. It's already been skinned. It's already been gutted. Well, that's kind of the foundation. And then a lot of other courses, I've been very critical about it, where you get some of these other butchery courses where they're showing you how to do high-end techniques like charcuterie and some of these other things. Look, when I worked in a butcher shop, you would never, ever, ever learn those things until you know how to do some of the basics. So the fact that they're out here showing people how to make mortadella, prosciutto, capicola, and all these other things, I've been highly critical of these people, and I will continue to be. I guess I'll be the Dr. Jack Cruz of the permaculture world, because I will be critical of these people, because first of all, they're spending a lot of money, a whole lot of money, and money's harder to come by these days than it ever has been. And when they're out there showing people, first of all, you didn't show them how to gut and skin, but you're going to show them how to make mortadella and capicola. Yeah, it seems like you're putting the cart before the horse. So I've been very critical, and I'm going to continue to be for those people. Maybe they'll straighten up and fly right, but I think it's insane to sit here and teach somebody high-end techniques. That's like showing somebody how to slam a basketball before you learned how to dribble and pass. So, Michelle, you got to lower your mic a little bit. You're covering up your face. So anyway, got that done, and still, I got to go through, sharpen up the knives. I mean, there's a lot of things I got to do. So other things we got going on around here, man, we finally got some rain for a chance.
Yeah, we got actually got a good amount. I was wondering because it just started to sprinkle and then it stopped, and I was like, oh. But then it started raining, so we got a good amount.
Yeah, so somebody says here, Nancy said, we did a live gutting and skinning and it's still up. Wow, they must have changed things, because yeah, I've done it before. I've tried doing the gutting and skinning, and yeah, they gave us strikes, not strikes, but basically made the thing impossible for anybody to see. So yeah, if you're able to get away with that, then they must have changed things. And they do all the time on YouTube. There are certain things that I've said on this program where I've had, and I'm not going to repeat it now, but I've had Jonathan Otto on here, and he brought up something that is, we'll call it
just call it CD.
Nobody's going to know what that is.
Well, yeah, I think they will.
Okay, so yes,
I think we've talked about it enough.
Yeah, well, I've talked about it, and they had no problem. And all of a sudden, he talks about it, and they take the video down. That wasn't the case before. And then we had Barbara O'Neill, of all people, got us our first strike on here, talking about an element on the periodic table. How about that? Talked about an element on a periodic table. So they're changing things all the time. And these platforms are just simply not free. So we'll do the best we can to work around the raindrops. So if they've changed it, that's good to go. I mean, that's good to know. But anyway, we got some rain. And so we went from extreme fire danger to moderate. So that's good for now. And hopefully it's tamped down a lot of these fires that were going on around here. And we've also had some weird phenomena happening in regard to these fires, meaning that we're having moisture content in the air. I talked to Dane Wigington from Geoengineering Watch, and the numbers we were having here were an impossibility. I'm talking impossibility. You cannot get a relative humidity that low. In fact, the higher you go, the lower the humidity, okay? That's part of the idea for me living at 3,000 feet, because it's low humidity, closer to the sun, the whole 9 yards. Well, in some of the lower country, they had a lower humidity, because I was texting some folks that I know in the lower country. They had 10% humidity. It's an impossibility without there being some help. So anyway, hopefully maybe they'll come back to try to burn the place down later. But right now it looks like we got some water, and that's a good thing, because now there's really a couple of things going on when it comes to the rain. Number one, maybe I can get around to making some bone sauce again. And number two, because I know a lot of people are asking for it, but I've just been unable to do it. Let's hope that this low fire danger stays for a day or two. But in addition to that, now all of a sudden, Our grass was already doing pretty darn good before. After today, it will absolutely explode. So I've been keeping my animals, and let me just kind of go on to this tangent a little bit. So I've been keeping the animals. I got the sheep working the side of the mountain that is totally in recovery. Okay. And what that means is that they are on typically a 3-day rotation where I have them. And during those 3 days, I'm putting out hay, not because they need it, but because I need them to stomp it. Okay. I need a carbon base on this ground where we're still dealing 7 years later with all the damage that the previous owners did.
Well, and we also took down some trees too, so there's recovery
Yeah.
from that.
Well, yeah, there's that. And then opening up the place. So if you don't get on top of it, if you don't intervene, trust me, nature will, and you're going to wind up getting something there you don't. And around here, that's Chinese silvergrass. So the way we're going about it, we know that the silvergrass does not like a highly fungal environment. It likes, and Michelle figured this out, it likes a high bacterial environment. It likes full sun.
Right.
So one way we can go about keeping that at bay is, number one, by putting down that ton of carbon, is changing it, not immediately, but it's part of changing it. And we can also speed up the process by using things like compost extract and things of that nature. But we're able to put down that carbon base, and yeah, you'll have to stay ahead of it. You'll have to stay on top of it. But if you can do that, you can transform something that you don't want there into something that you do want there. And we've done it over and over and over again. And frankly, that Chinese silvergrass is the scourge of these mountains. And guess who brought it in? Yep, your government. So anyway, we're hoping that this rain is actually going to do so many wonderful things. But back to the grazing thing. So they're on a 3-day rotation right now. I could literally put them on the pasture right now. And they're going to be in this spot I'm going to give them a 4-day rotation in this particular place. And we don't normally keep them in one spot that long. But we're going to put them in a 4-day rotation where they are right now, just to give me the opportunity to put down more carbon. So if you have bare ground, folks, stay on top of it. If you have bare ground or something that loves a highly bacterial environment, put that carbon down. And you're going to want to put it down relatively thick, not so thick that you're going to smother everything that's coming after it, but they're going to pee on it, they're going to poop on it, they're going to stomp it in. And obviously they're going to eat some, but you can tell these sheep are like, come on, man.
Yeah.
You see that green grass over there, man?
Yeah.
Can we go after it?
Yeah, they're throwing a fit when we throw hay out because they're like, I see the grass.
Yeah, I see the grass. And thank God they're all still pregnant right now, because, maybe they might try to challenge the fence. I mean, any of them that have done that in the past, the netting works out really well. So if you have them on, single wire or something like that, it's going to be more of a challenge. They're going to want to get out. But if you have them on netting, they're going to think twice about it, especially when you're pumping about 10,000 volts through it. So they get Kentucky fried a little bit and think, I'll stay on the hay for a while. But that's the only reason we're feeding hay, y'all. So in terms of my management strategy, that's exactly what I am doing. I thought I was going to have to feed hay for a couple of weeks, but the only reason I did it is because I'm trying to recover a certain area, and that's how you can use hay strategically. And if anybody hasn't read it, I highly recommend Kick the Hay Habit by Jim Garrish. It's going to make all the sense in the world to you. And then you're going to realize, okay, my stocking density, is it where it ought to be, or should I change things? You can do a whole lot just by reading that book. And if you don't want to read the book, you can go to Stockman Grass Farmer magazine, and they have a video version of it. I think it's like $100 where he does the presentation of it. And it's kind of handy because you get a lot of visuals that you don't necessarily get in the book. And, because he's there explaining it, it goes along even better. So definitely Kick the Hay Habit is a must read if you're doing any kind of grazing out there. And folks, hey, remember, when the grass is growing fast, you move them fast. When it's growing slow, you move them slow. Don't give them too big a paddock. Give them, when we do get them out there, they'll be moving every single day, because we're going to be getting in the spring flush. Actually, we are right now, and they're going to be moving every single day. So they're just going to kind of nip the tips of it, and then we'll move them to another spot. And then and then when summer rolls around, when things slow down a little bit, then they're going to slow down a little bit in terms of movement. So folks, there's so many different strategies out there. You can do a high density, you name it. There's so many different strategies out there. but the grass is absolutely kicking right now, and it's getting better and better and better. And all those things out there that we didn't want, like the multi-floor rows, William came back and he was like, hey man, I almost saw no multi-floor rows out there. And that's the beauty of using these animals, because grass is made to be nipped at over and over and over again, given obviously a little bit of rest. But when you have woodier species like that, they're not made that way. So that's why goats and sheep are so effective. So if you can leave them out there, let them beat it up a little bit, and then they come back around, let's say you got a 60-day rotation, and they come back around where that thing's like, yeah, okay, I'm going again. And then all of a sudden it gets his head chopped off by one of these sheep or goats. And so it'll finally say, okay, I'm not supposed to be here and I'm not coming back. And that's exactly the idea. All right. So what else we got here? Oh man, I'm hoping to have now, Michelle, we're not gonna let the cat out of the bag just yet, folks. So Living Soil Foundation, obviously, is the foundation we started. Part of what we're doing right now, we have it turned out to be a happy blessing, I suppose. But in our high tunnel, a couple of years back, we were in a rush and we knew we shouldn't have done it. And we put some Grazing infected soil out there. And
well, we didn't know it was Grazing infected.
Yeah, we didn't know that.
We just put bagged soil in the beds to fill them up, and it was contaminated. The reason we knew is because we had watched some of Danny and Wanda's videos at Deep South, and we started having the same problems that they talked about. So we knew what the problem was at that point.
Well, that being the case, I mean, you couldn't even germinate seeds out there, right?
Yeah, like some of them, there's one spot where nothing would germinate. Sometimes some of the plants would germinate, but then they would like grow a little bit and then they would die. That's what happened a lot of times.
Yeah. So here's the deal. So we didn't tell a whole lot of people about this. It created an environment to where we could really, really test. Okay, so we got and we got a lot of forever chemicals out there, as people call them.
Mm-hmm.
So here it is. We've done an experiment, and we're not ready to give you the full results right now, but I'm just going to kind of wet your beak a little bit. So of the 14 beds out there in that high tunnel, one we used as a control. One we used a certain technique. Not one, but 3 beds we used a certain technique. Another 3 beds we used our compost extract, and then 7 beds we combined the compost extract and this other method. And why don't you tell them what it looks like right now? Don't tell them what it is exactly, because
I don't know what you want me to tell them and what you don't want me to tell them.
Okay, we can't go into details about what it is we're doing, but basically, what's the recovery look like?
The recovery is excellent. I'm seeing excellent germination in some of the beds, and so they're actually growing.
Okay, yeah. So I'll say it another way. No, I mean, you got it right, but I mean, basically, maybe I'm kind of regretting even bringing it up right now. But honestly, folks, what I'm trying to point out is that these areas where we're working, where we have forever chemicals out there that mainstream science says we can't get rid of, it looks like we're actually getting rid of it, and we're waiting on some of the tests to come back and confirm it. And if this is what we think it is, this is paradigm changing, especially for a lot of people up here that think that they're that are in a toxic mess right now. And we're going to have solutions for them. So we are hopefully within a month of being able to the testing. Look, and this is through the Living Soil Foundation. The testing is not cheap, y'all. I mean, we're going to get scalar testing done by Dr. Will. And then once he gives us the okay, then of course we'll go through and do lab testing, because they're going to, even though Dr. Will's test, I mean, we confirmed in the first test we did that his test was more thorough than the so-called lab test. And he does it like right there on the spot. And the lab test confirmed everything. So we're hoping we'll be able to have some, and this is exactly why I don't want to work with anybody else out here doing this stuff, is because we need decentralized people out here coming up with the solutions, like finding out what works, what doesn't. And out here, we've noticed that a lot of people are fancying themselves as...
You mean Western North Carolina,
yes,
where a lot of the contamination is?
I'm glad you pointed that out. We have a lot of people that have now fancying themselves as soil scientists or reclamation specialists or whatever the case may be. Well, not a single one of them, to my knowledge, has done any testing. How do you know you hit the finish line without testing? So that's where we are. And to my knowledge, we are the only ones that have done multiple tests out here to find out what's going on. So we know we're dealing with a toxic mess, even though nobody around here wants to believe it. And we're gonna find out whether or not we're hitting the finish line. So I'm hoping that we are so close.
But in the garden beds, we didn't do any testing, and we should know quicker than about a month. We should know.
Yeah, we
probably
did.
here.
Yeah, we did. Dr. Will tested that.
Oh, he did.
Yeah.
Well, we didn't send him off to a lab, is what I mean.
No, but his test basically confirmed that every forever chemical you can.
But we should have results like before 4 weeks, I would imagine. I mean, we'll probably know just because stuff is growing.
Yeah, well, that's a good indication, but not necessarily conclusive.
No, but I don't need anything conclusive for like our own garden beds.
Well, yeah, I do. I mean, I want to know exactly where we are. I want to know whether or not this stuff is ate up. And because there are things, extremophiles out there, and the literature is out there, but mainstream science doesn't want to look at it. It's like so many other things in mainstream science that they say, and I'm going to cover one of them here in a minute, but there's so many of this stuff so many of these things out here that mainstream science just doesn't even want to look at. And the reason why is that it might get into their pockets if you find out that there's a natural solution to things out there. So, yeah. All right. So, and speaking of mainstream science or mainstream history, has anybody else out there seen this thing about the Hitler thing down in Argentina? How many researchers out there, and this is going back to, okay, mainstream history tells you that Hitler died in a bunker, and every hooplehead out there who knows that the government lies about everything believed it. I never believed it. Even as a kid, I was like, let me get this right. So you got these rat lines leaving all over Germany, and you're telling me Hitler wasn't on one of them? And then lo and behold, years later, they do a DNA result on the skull that was supposedly Hitler's. Come to find out it was a woman, and it wasn't Hitler at all. And then all of a sudden, the Argentinian president just came out, I think today or yesterday, I can't remember which, basically came out saying, you know what, Hitler, and they've been soft disclosing this through things like the History Channel, where, did Hitler die in Argentina? Well, they're saying not only did he die in Argentina, he had a couple of kids down there too. And he lived another 20 years after World War II. So, hey, folks, is there anything historically that your government doesn't lie about?
No.
I mean, there is not a single thing out there. That's the thing that's blowing my mind. So everybody will believe mainstream science without question, even though, our whole experience with COVID should have basically been an eye-opener for everybody else out there. We know our government lies about everything, and you're still believing them. They tell you, it's not even the government, but some researchers out there just tell you, hey, we found all this stuff under the Great Pyramids. Okay. Let's dig it up and find out. And everybody just buys it, hook, line, and sinker. I don't understand that. I don't understand why we're so gullible and we're just going to believe these people. Everything they tell. If you had a friend that lied to you 1/100th of the extent that your government, the news media, the politicians, you name it, 1/100th, they could tell you they saw the sun rise in the east and you would go out and check. But when the government, when it's officially said, I mean, they've been soft disclosing evidence after evidence after evidence of all these communities down there that were saying, yeah, Hitler was down here in Argentina. Well, you know what that also means? It means, once again, your government lied to you, because there is no way. In fact, there's article after article after article stating how J. Edgar Hoover knew beyond all doubt. In fact, the U.S. government, all the way to the top, under Operation Paperclip, they knew that Hitler and everybody else was down there. The thing was, they were working for us now. So we took their Nazi apparatus, brought it to the United States of amnesia. They even talk about it in pop culture, and like Captain American Winter Soldier, I want to say. It may be Captain America Civil War. I can't remember which one, but they even talk about it in the movies. They openly tell you what happened there, but because it's in the movie, nobody believes it. But here it is, absolute confirmation, and the president of Argentina is saying that he's going to come out and bring it out of nowhere. And no, Julie, it's not a random topic. It's on to the point. The point that I'm making is mainstream science says we can't get rid of forever chemicals. They call them forever chemicals, okay? They tell you this cannot be done. And we just believe them. We believe the officials, and I'm putting that in quotes, without question. Well, we believed them, certainly don't include myself in there, but everybody's believed that Hitler was dead since 1945. Turns out he didn't die till probably 1965. He was probably listening to Elvis down there on records or something. I mean, on the radio. I mean, who even knows? My point being is I'm bringing up this topic to basically point out a bigger truth that everything they tell you, like forever chemicals, that nothing can be done about this. And we're finding out, we're probably going to prove that these forever chemicals are not forever chemicals. They want you to believe that, to believe the next lie they're about to sell you.
Yeah. I mean, there's recent examples too. January 6th, COVID. Like if they lied about the most recent things, and if you listen to their language, they try to change the narrative for January 6th. So if they do that this recently, you have to ask, what else have they done that with?
Well, pretty much everything. I mean, there is nothing, but that my point being, as a decentralized thinker, which is what I am and what she is, and what I think a lot of you are out there, I'm not believing anything from a centralized system until I have massive proof. So when they tell me this stuff, yeah, and people like Ricky and Amy and a number of others are out here pointing out other examples where every single thing they tell you, whether it's 9/11,
Building 7.
and then there's some of these third rails that you can't touch, like Israel. And nobody seems to think, hold on, I can say anything about anybody. I can burn the flag, but the second you could have a foreign national come here, burn the U.S. flag, nothing happens. But the second they say something about Israel, they're on the first thing smoking back across the Pacific. I mean, and nobody can put two and two together. No. And by the way, I'm not going to go too far down that rabbit hole right now, but that's my point. Everything they tell you is a doggone manufactured lie. And, you got to stay out. You got to stay alert for it. So one last thing I want to get into before we get into other stuff is the importance of how both of us have basically put a high emphasis on sun exposure as of late. And if you don't have the app, it's called D-Minder. And that's exactly what I'm going to recommend. And this goes back to, once again, decentralized thinking. I've got to give, props to Dr. Alexis Cowan and Dr. Cruz. But honestly, there's nothing in my life that has moved the needle more than examining their work. Now, what did the dermatologists tell you? Stay out of the sun.
Don't go outside without sunscreen.
Yeah. And then when you look at their work and then you find out, and the reason why I'm going to recommend that app, well, number one, I thought I was getting vitamin D just by going out, because most farmers and people that work outside, you do your work in the morning, you do it in the evening, right? Well, depending on where you live and your latitude, you may not be getting any vitamin D at all. And that was exactly what was happening with me, because you're not even getting it. And I've talked about this before, but I got to bring it over because I got to say it again, because so many people are in and out. Man, I'm sorry, y'all. This computer's like freaking me out because I'm trying to read your comments at the same time while I'm talking, and this thing's like in and out with this crazy color that's going on. So anyway, so vitamin D, you're not even getting it until the sun is 30 degrees high in the sky. Depending on where you are, it's not the same times every day. So here I was out there doing my work at these times and doing whatever. And most people do this in the construction world or otherwise. And then I would do whatever clerical work I needed to do, inside work during the heat of the day. Well, I've had it all backwards, and I've changed it around, and so have you. And what are the results for you?
Well, I always felt better working outside in the sun, but I never knew why. And I always felt when I was outside working the majority of the day, I slept better at night than I did when let's say, for example, when I did office work or when I went to school and spent 8 hours in a classroom. I just didn't feel as good. But working it now, it makes sense why I slept better, why I felt better. And you also have to take into consideration like the time of the day, but also how many clothes you have on. Try to get as much skin exposed as possible.
Well, that's what the app's for, and the app is going to tell you. So if you got a Fitzpatrick score when it comes to your, your darkness or whatever. So between a 1 and 5, as I understand it, and you put in all your data in there, and then you put in the time you're going to do some sun exposure, and it kind of tells you, hey, are you hitting the mark? Are you not? And then it kind of estimates what your blood level is. And honestly, since basically doing everything backwards, I switched everything around, and good night, man. I even done a little bit of an experiment. I probably shouldn't say this, but I was telling folks at the processing this other week that, using their methods, it's crazy because, for example, and this is what woke me up to it. When we had a crew of Mexicans that came out working on the roof. They didn't speak a word of English. Everything they ate and drank was Coke and candy. I'm dead serious.
And not just one. They had like cases
of Coke. And we're talking between like 10 guys going through drinking Coke after Coke after Coke, eating nothing but candy. I know because they left wrappers everywhere. Clean up the shingles they tore off, but they left the wrappers everywhere. Anyway, to a person, every last one of these guys was in, looked like in pretty good physical condition. And I was like, okay, let me go ahead and try this. Because before I start talking about this stuff, I want to make sure before I really started coming out with it, I said, let me try it. So I'm eating all the things I shouldn't, but my sun exposure is on point. Now, this is not a recommendation for you to go out and do this, but I wanted to test it for myself. Plus, it was a good reason to eat junk for a little while just to find out. My conditioning hasn't changed one bit, not one bit, as long as my sun exposure was on point. And also water, obviously you want to be drinking a lot of water and do a lot of grounding as well. That was already baked into the cake. So this was the other chink in the armor that I didn't tell everybody about because I myself didn't yet know about it. So point being, if you examine their work, and I binge listen to everything this guy puts out, and I mean everything, because I'm trying it once again. If you look at the centralized approach, they're going to tell you the polar opposite of what he's telling you, even though all of the literature proves what he and Dr. Callan is telling everybody. It's out there. It's known. But if you're just listening exclusively to a lot of the health gurus out there, I don't know what the reason may be. I suspect there's a lot of foolish pride involved. But at the end of the day, I'm looking for results. I'm not getting any younger. I'm almost 55. So if I'm going to keep doing this work, I need to find that's why I'm into this biohacking, is because I love the work I do, but I work in a very extreme environment. I mean, I'm working on hills that are shaped like this. Okay. I'm working on the side of a mountain half the time. So if I'm going to do this, I have got to be in the best condition I possibly can just to be able to do it. So I'm looking for every single hack I possibly can. And I'll be honest with you folks. I know I've talked about a lot of them here. I have yet to find a hack that moves the needle more. And part of it has to do with these glasses right now. It's also eliminating blue light from your diet. And folks, when you get into that rabbit hole and you start looking into it, you realize, oh my goodness, there is a reason why Obama got rid of all of the incandescent lights. You just thought we were saving energy? Look, I'm a journeyman electrician with almost 30 years experience. I can tell you right now, if I did an energy audit on your house, and you had incandescent light bulbs in there, they would be at the bottom of the list of the things that are your power hogs in a home. Your things like your HVAC, those are going to be at the top of the list. Your stove, things like that, long before your lights. And those were incandescent lights. So you got to ask yourself, why did they change them out? Why did they get rid of them? Incandescent lights were perfectly fine, and you were getting a full spectrum. And that's exactly what your body needs to a certain extent. But it wasn't just blue light, and that's exactly what you're getting with these CFLs, with these LEDs, with these fluorescent light bulbs. That's exactly what you're getting. It's all blue light. Every time you open up your phone, unless you put I wish I had my phone up here right now, but unless you put a filter on it, do you have yours handy? I think I've talked about it a number of times. Unless you put a filter on it that eliminates that blue light, you can hold it up there and let them see it. Unless you have a filter on there, like she has it on, it's red right now. And even still, because it doesn't get rid of all of it, it eliminates most of it. I still wear these lights. So we're very, very conscious about our light exposure. I've replaced every bulb in this house with Nera light bulbs where it's full spectrum lighting, and I put them on dimmers. So when the sun goes down, the blue light is eliminated almost completely in this house. And I'm getting close to, I got a couple more hurdles to jump, but getting rid of that blue light. So when you're looking at a computer screen, when the sun goes down, you are getting unnatural blue light in your eyes when your body's circadian rhythm is saying shut down. Other little hacks like making sure you see the sunrise because it tells your body, and there's nothing else that can do it. There's no substitute for it. There is no substitute at all. Things like that. But the reason I'm telling everybody out here, everybody's, so many folks are dealing with, bad chronic health conditions and a number of others. It is the easiest program to follow. Easiest. And I don't know how many people I've told, whether personally or otherwise, and I have yet to have one person examine the information. I'm not telling you, believe me, go out there, examine it for yourself and look into it. But like I said, I've really put this thing to the test in a massive way, and I've kind of leaked it out here and there to let everybody know, okay, this is what's working, this isn't. And I'm here to tell you folks, it's the easiest protocol to follow, and almost nobody's doing it.
How do you spell the light bulb brand?
NIRA, November, India, Romeo, Alpha. Yep, Nera light bulb. And then you can also get, full spectrum bulbs from places like Chromolux. Sound it out. Okay. So Chromolux, Nera light bulbs are very expensive, but they last for 45 years. So if you don't plan on going anywhere, or just, if some of these bulbs are expensive, so put them in the places that are most critical at night, or buy red light incandescent light. You don't have to do that. Just buy red incandescent light bulbs, put them on at night. Everybody's going to think you're running a brothel, but at the end of the day, who cares? There's so many different ways you can do this, and it's just going to require a little bit out of you because we are living in a very unnatural environment, and I'm looking for every single hack I can. So folks, go check out. I know I sound like a broken record on here, and I'm going to reach out to them once I feel like I have a really solid foundation of understanding and all their work. But yeah, these guys are changing lives. But I mean, I've talked to some people with some pretty bad health concerns, and they're like, and I'm trying to tell them, hey man, sunglasses are the worst thing you can do. They really are. And they prove it. This isn't my opinion. Okay. Everything they market to you, once again, centralized thinking versus decentralized. So we'll cover, I didn't mean to spend that much time talking on that, but I did. So hopefully that was a blessing to you. All right. So if you want one of these, I got on my wrist right now, Wave Watch. It's Billy 100 will get you $100 off. It puts a lot of those awesome frequencies out there. Michelle was having some issues a while back, and
it always takes care of them.
Yep. I mean, it's got everything from a headache setting, you name it. I don't know of anybody who's gotten one that, didn't work out for them in one way or another. All right, coming up May 2nd through the 4th, Mountain Readiness. They're going to have their festival out there. It's the best preparedness homesteading festival, all of rolled into one. And it's basically the only one I'm interested in going into these days because it's not your same old tired classes. And they're doing things, everything from man tracking to you name it. I mean, this is stuff you're never going to find at these other conferences. And I'm going to have T on this week, and we're going to go into some specifics about what's going on there, who's going to be there. Pat Millage is even coming. He's going to show you how to choke somebody down, especially some assailant. All right. So Redemption Shield, 10% off with promo code PERMA. Stay G'd up from the feet up. That's how I do it, man. My feet are on that mat as I speak. So I got to stay grounded, especially when I'm sitting in front of these. Lights. Well, I'm sitting in front of studio lights, so I'm something of a hypocrite right now, but it's a very narrow, and this is why we changed the time that we do this show from 7 o'clock to 6:30. Because if I'm going to be around this stuff, obviously I need to be protected to a certain extent, and part of that is grounding. So that's why I use Redemption Shield mats. If you need any, promo code PERMA will get you squared away. So let's talk about some of this good news out here. Oh, let's see here. All right. Yeah. So first up, okay, so check this out. Violent Democrats, this story. It's actually kind of good news, even though it's not going to sound like it. But violent Democrats might find themselves in prison soon to be for firebombing Tesla vehicles and dealerships where they could easily be raped or tortured by murderers. Yeah, I don't know why you put that in the headline. Okay, I missed that part. But the one that got me is that there's this guy. He's a celebrity trainer to the stars. Okay. Now, this guy clearly probably almost certainly makes a pretty good living, and they just busted him. Now you're going to have, what, 30 vatos try to hire on as your proctologist in the clink. So, hey, FAFO, as they say. So I hope they throw but what blows my mind is that all you people, the people that are doing it, are supposedly all about the environment.
Yeah.
You're an environmentalist and you're sitting here burning down Teslas that have fires you can't even hardly put out. And then appalling things, man. They're walking up, spitting on somebody's vehicle. And you know what? The people that do this sort of thing are the people that have never been in a fight in their life. I mean, you go up and I'm dead serious. I mean, a bunch of hoople-headed Marchies.
You're right.
They do this stuff and they run their mouths. It's like that idiot George the other day. You'll do things online or in public that you never, because when we were in private, I mean, he was as sheepish as you can get out, as if I was about to throw a beating on him at that last festival.
Yeah, but how many people do that? They do all this stuff behind a computer screen and they would never do in person. Or,
they're doing stuff like this, or they're keying up a guy's, I saw another video where they're keying up the guy's Tesla. And it's so obvious. I mean, and you're just stupid criminals at that. So anyway, yeah, enjoy the clink. I mean, and then for what? For what? Really? If you love the environment so much, and you're going to sit here and pollute it even more by burning down a freaking Tesla, which is about the most toxic vehicle you ever could burn. So, yeah, enjoy your servitude. All right, so check this one out. NIH study buried for decades now. This ain't going to sound like good news, but I'm glad it's seeing the light of day. So National Institute of Health buried for decades a study that reveals that flu shots increase elderly deaths, not prevent them.
Who would have thought?
How about that? Yeah, and a lot of these old folks are the first ones to line up to go get that flu shot. So maybe you're singing a different tune right now.
And they're recommended too. They're recommended to the older people.
Yeah. Yeah. And well, your mom, they were trying to get her jabbed up in the whole, I won't even go into all that, but the point being, so-called healthcare professionals, centralized system. You see a theme here going on today, y'all? Decentralized. That's the key in every part of your life. Examine this stuff for yourself, because these people are a bunch of flipping criminals. They really are. And they knew this. And if you look at this, I mean, years ago, they knew this. And here they are, still out there peddling these shots like nobody's business. And they knew the data. Now, here's some legit good news. So tackling the rubber waste crisis, and I don't mean condoms. Groundbreaking study reveals eco-friendly method to recycle tires. Now, here's what blows my mind. Now, I couldn't be happier about an article like this, because what they're doing, I'll just kind of give you the cliff notes. What they're doing is basically taking these tires, and in about 6 hours, they're able to disintegrate this tire and turn it into an epoxy that's basically better than anything else out there. Okay. So they just came up with this thing. And these guys who invented it, I mean, they should become billionaires. I hope they do anyway, because I mean, how cool is that? And it's apparently doing it in a way where it's not putting any toxins in the environment. Everything's contained, and it's making an epoxy that's better than, because even on the epoxy label, if you read it, it's like, don't breathe this stuff in, you need to do this in an open area. These guys are they're evaporating tires basically in 6 hours and creating this resin that's better than anything else out there in terms of an epoxy. So it's being recycled in that way. And I'm like, wow. So what if we, instead of putting all this money in the smart munitions and, finding very slick ways to come up with, instead of using a regular incandescent bulb that, we're going to make everybody stupid by putting blue lights in their houses, the video games, the computer screens, all these other things, or cell phones, all this stuff, instead of polluting everybody with blue light. Maybe if we put our efforts after, funding projects like this. I don't know who these guys are, but man, I mean, how cool is that? Where you're taking something where most of these landfills, they got tires that, and this is what inspired Michael Reynolds really to come up with the Earthship.
You know how many Earth ships we could build in Western North Carolina?
Well, it's funny you mentioned that because I was like, okay, one way to go about it would be to build a bunch of Earth. I mean, you could do an Earthship barn. You could do
Yeah.
Earthship.
I mean, just because of I'm talking about the hurricane, people that lost their homes in the hurricane.
Yeah. Yeah. They could make tire bales. I saw a guy do an Earthship out of tire bales, which are about, I want to say like 2,000 pounds a piece. And he used it as his tire walls, and he was using these bales. And I was like, wow, that's a pretty cool, interesting way of going about it. Now, I'd be a little concerned, if those straps ever broke or whatever. I think I'd want some seriously hefty cables on there just to be safe. But the point being is that there are so many ingenious ways and people doing incredible things out there that never see the light of day. They never see the light of day. And this is, if there was ever good news, man, that's it, because we got a serious crisis when it comes to tires. But like you said right there, whether it's a retaining wall, okay, that's a way to use a tire. And people say, well, what about the off-gassing? Look, once you put it on the inside of a structure, believe it or not, the air in an Earthship has been tested to be cleaner than any other structure on the planet. So, plus when you have adobe walls and things like that, it breathes and it takes in all the toxins and everything. And as long as it's not exposed to air, then it's going to do just fine. It'll stay there forever. So that's one way because when I first saw this, when I saw the title of this article, I was thinking, okay, I bet they're building Earthships.
That's what I thought.
That's what I thought when I saw it. And I'm like, wow, cool. This is even cooler, man. You're basically come up with a clean chemical process that gives off no nastiness, and you're making an epoxy that you could do so many incredible things with. How cool is that? And it's better than anything on the market. So like I said, these guys will probably be gazillionaires, or 3M will come in, buy it up, and put it on the shelf, and you'll never see it.
Yeah.
And don't think it doesn't happen, folks. You know how many free energy devices are out there where they've done that same thing? Or a carburetor back in the 70s that got 200 miles to the gallon, or the car that ran on water. All those things, they get bought up by some of these companies and they never see the light of day. Or they do like the guy who came up with the Tucker automobile, where the big ones go after them and the thing never sees the light of day. So, yeah, that's good news. All right, so we're going to get into the main topic, but before we do, we're going to go to my man, Eric Seider.
Hey, Eric Seider here with your Pimpcast tip of the day. Today's tip, methods of design. The actual processes of design involves understanding how to analyze essential components, natural systems, and their optimal placements within a holistic environment. The design begins with thorough analysis, where we list existing elements and explore connections that foster mutual benefits for humans, animals, and plants. Observation on site is crucial. Designing isn't just desk work. We must engage with the landscape to understand factors like rain, wildlife, and soil conditions. By observing weed patterns, soil health, and the behavior of local fauna, we glean insights that help us create effective designs, allowing nature to guide our strategies. Armed with our observations, we can experiment with arrangements, exploring options like shading glasshouses with vines to create balanced environments. Technology aids us in mapping and assessing landscapes. With high-resolution LiDAR maps, you can create energy-efficient mainframe designs remotely. But nothing replaces the insights gained from being on site, where we notice nuances that maps won't show, especially for the finer details of systems and the ongoing evolution of a site. We implement a zoning system within permaculture design. Here, energy is concentrated in our home area while extending functionality into gardens, pastures, and forests. Each zone serves multiple purposes and enables us to interact with nature rather than exploit it. As we start designing, continual adjustments will enhance efficiency. We must understand our clients' needs, local resources, and environmental challenges. Through this iterative process, we can create thriving ecosystems that offer sustainable lifestyles and vibrant communities, benefiting both people and the environment in the long run. You can find me on YouTube and Instagram at Eric Seider. And if you're in need of permaculture t-shirts or remote permaculture consultation and design, head over to ericseider.com. And for those in the Sacramento area, check out my permaculture community group, permaculturefairoaks.org.
That's my dog. In fact, I'm wearing one of his shirts right now. In fact, I'm usually wearing them all the time. In fact, this one, are you? Yeah, you're wearing one too. Yeah, so if you want some ballin' shirts, man, Eric's the place to go. They're conversation starters and in the right way too. They're never going to be offensive, and they really say it all. Boy, Eric hit it right there. And what is permaculture? A decentralized design science. That's exactly what it is. And you got to get your boots on the ground. You got to get dirty. Look, hey, get your vitamin D while you're out there examining that land. Okay. Just get that app and find out whether or not you're going to burn, do all the right things. B. Hendricks points out something there that's pretty interesting. Electric vehicles were around before the combustion engine. Absolutely correct. And in fact, if you go back and look at some of the earliest models, nobody knows how those things were recharged. There were some models that some people suspect that were running on, we don't know what exactly. We know that they were batteries, but we don't know for sure how those batteries were charged. So some people suggest that there were some free energy devices out there that, of course, are sitting on the shelf somewhere, because there were people. There's one guy in particular I remember back in the 1930s. Dr. Stephen Greer had talked about him in his documentary, and I wish I could remember the name of that documentary, but yeah, the Russians tried to kidnap this guy. I mean, you talk about a swashbuckling adventure, man. They tried to kidnap this dude, everything. He was producing like 5,000 watts in something the size of a shoebox. And that was back in the 1930s. Pretty incredible stuff. So yeah, there's a lot of this stuff that sits on the shelf and never see the light of day. So yeah, go check out Eric. You'll be glad you did. All right, y'all, EMP Shield, $50 off with promo code PERMA. Look, number one reason you might want to think about an EMP Shield right now, well, notwithstanding the fact that we're looking to try to start World War III in Iran, but if you're looking something for your home, your number one threat is always going to be lightning. So if anything gets downstream of your EMP Shield on your house, they're going to cover you for 25 G's. That's what I'm talking about. So EMP Shield, get $50 off with promo code PERMA. All right. So we're going to get into brass tacks regarding spring tasks, because, we're in the spring right now. I mean, I don't know where everybody else lives, but here in the mountains, early spring can still have remnants of winter. Okay. So spring starts a little bit later for us around here, at least where I am. And so now you got to be thinking about some of those farm tasks. And I'm going to throw a couple of them at you. And Michelle, you just chime in wherever you feel like it. But check this out. One thing I'm going to be doing different this spring is, so many times you've heard me, and I've talked about this more on my Patreon channel, where I'm talking about pruning. And I haven't done a whole lot of that on YouTube as of late. Frankly, I just haven't had the time nor the bandwidth to be able to do any videos on any of that stuff. So Patreon's a little bit different, because I can put out like a couple of minutes of just straight run video where I'm just, look, if you're serious about this stuff, that's what Patreon's for. There's not a lot of entertainment value involved. It's just, get down to brass tacks. This is why we're doing what we're doing. And that's for the people that are very, very serious. Well, one of the things I've been covering as of late is pruning. Well, in the spring, if anybody's ever watched my channel on YouTube, you notice I do almost all my pruning in the fall. Well, this time it's going to be a little bit different. I'm going to be doing it in the spring when these guys are vegetative, and there's a reason for it. So as far as one of the spring tasks I have to get done, all my trees that were just kind of going along, if you're watching visually, you have basically a tree where your branches are pointing up, or you have a fruit tree where they're kind of either pointing out or pointing down. Well, I have so many trees out here that are so vigorous that I need to slow these guys down. So if you prune when the sugars are up in the extremities of that tree above ground, if you prune it when it's vegetative, it will tell the hormones of that tree, hey, we need you to slow down a little bit, okay? You're just a little bit too vigorous. Because if all the branches are pointing up, that's an open indication that this guy is just exploding. Now, in some cases, I actually put a nitrogen fixer in the same hole, like on this new project that we're doing out there. We put nitrogen fixing trees in the same hole as our fruit tree for a bunch of reasons, not the least of which being that it's fertilizer right there in the same hole. Well, this soil is fantastic that these guys are in, and they have a nitrogen fixer maybe in very close proximity, and these guys are exploding. So I need to slow things down. So pruning is one of the things. And if you want to know details about this sort of thing, like I said, I'm saving those kinds of videos for YouTube. I'm not on YouTube so much, but I put them on Patreon. And look, it's not in the interest of aggrandizing myself. not trying to make a pot. I mean, you can get in for as little as $1. I mean, the idea being is that I save the serious information, the very serious information, no entertainment value whatsoever, just for that, place. Is there anything you got going on this spring? Dumb question.
Well, tomorrow we're putting our the honey supers on the bees, and we'll probably do like just an inspection of them, probably a quick inspection before we put the honey supers on, just to check and see how the hives are doing. I know for sure we lost one of them. We had a storm a while back, and we had to go fix some of the bee boxes that had gotten disturbed a little bit. And I noticed that we did lose one, but we'll do a full inspection, put the honey supers on. So that'll take care of the bees. We didn't get any swarm traps out this year.
No, so we'll just have to capture them, and we need to we should. I don't know if it's too late for all that, but if we're going to use your horizontal hive that we have down there, we're going to have to put something in it, but we're going to have to capture some bees and put them over in there. So we might want to think about some swarm trap or something
or
like that.
if there's a colony that maybe needs to be split, maybe we can just split it, put one in the horizontal hive.
Yeah. So whatever it takes. I mean, whatever it's going to take. Basically, we're one of the only people around here that still have bees left. So we're going to try to keep what we have, and we don't baby them. I mean, if they don't make it through the winter, they don't make it through the winter. They got their own, we left them plenty to eat.
Yeah, they've got their own honey stores. We don't feed sugar. So
no chemicals, no drugs, no treatments, no nothing. And
we just try to provide as much for them to eat as possible.
That's it. And we don't do anything else. I mean, we don't add any chemicals or everybody's out there adding this chemical, adding that chemical. We're not interested in that sort of thing. If they can't survive without, look, folks, the more you have to baby anything, and I don't care whether it's your animals, your insects, it doesn't matter. The more you got to baby them, the more life that's taken out of you, the more time that's taken out of your life. So we don't want things that we got to baby. So that's exactly why with the bees out here, and we produce honey that really is, I mean, we produce so much doggone honey, it'll make your head spin. And nobody wants to believe that we don't give them any drugs. We really don't. So, and we're not going to. So these guys are doing really great. I can't even tell you how many swarms they had last year. It was more than we had to let them go. I mean, that's how many there were.
Yeah. There were a couple we couldn't get.
Yep. So bees are going to be off and running. Another thing I'm going to be doing, and it's through the Living Soil Foundation, is going to be doing a lot of tree planting, I suspect. People are starting to take notice in the area that we did the other day that was down by the river I don't want to say what community it is, but people are starting to take notice around there, especially people within that community. And they're like, wow, things are starting to change around here. So even though I'm reluctant to do it, probably going to be doing a little bit of tree planting right now. Now, the thing I don't like about the best time is always going to be in the fall and the winter to plant your trees, depending on where you live. And the reason why Dr. Carl Whitcomb out of Oklahoma State basically realized that if you can plant a tree in the fall or winter, it will spend that winter or fall and winter. And then when it gets to spring, it's basically putting down roots. Okay. And it's growing, it's putting down these roots. And then when spring rolls around, it'll explode. And you're going to also realize that it requires so much less in terms of management. So, but if you plant a tree in the spring, and let's say you go a while without water, you might very well lose that tree. It requires so much more work. And then of course you're going to have to get through summer. And then when fall rolls around, and it's still around, okay, you might be in the clear, and then through the winter and all. But you can avoid all that if you can do it in the fall. Like I said, I usually prune in the fall, but I'm probably going to be putting in some trees. I try to do all this stuff in the fall if I possibly can. But I'm probably going to be putting out some trees this spring. So that's another thing I'm going to be doing. But that's going to be not here on this property, but Living Soil Foundation. We'll be doing it probably on another site. As soon as we hit the finish line on this one, we'll just be in management state, and we'll let the owners kind of take over from there. And then we're honestly going to get this thing to a point where we just kind of back off a little bit and just, just kind of go out to pasture, let this thing kind of take care of itself. That's the kind of systems we want to put in. Another thing I'm going to be doing is replacing more firewood. I mean, it's not like around here, if you heat your home the way we do with firewood, you should not be good night, man. Firewood ought to be real easy to come by this year, but that's one of those spring things we got to get into. Now, that doesn't warrant a whole lot of conversation, but folks, I'm going to kind of circle back to what I was saying regarding grazing, because you want a good grazing plan, especially when you're getting into your spring. Now, you're going to have that flush, and if you got a lot of animals out there, and when I say flush, I mean that's when things are really, really blowing up and they're vegetative and the grass is moving, everything's fine. But you got to be thinking about summer, depending on where you are. Are you going to need to take out some animals? Are you going to need to sell some animals? Because when you get into summer and things are slowing down, and then when you get into fall, things are slowing down, and then you get into winter, nothing's growing. And if you have too many animals out there, you're going to go broke. So you might want to think about your grazing plans. And if you have the ability to stockpile forage, that's another thing you're going to learn in Jim Garrish's book. And you can also see like up close, and I mean, Greg Judy does it all through his YouTube channel. So you can go see it up close and personal there. So many different ways to go about it, but that's why you want to kick that hay habit if you possibly can, is it's going to save you money at the end of the day. Unless obviously there's some cases where you can't get away from it, where you have to restore a piece of ground. Well, you may have to roll out a bunch of hay to get it off and running, or at least kick up to kick it up a little bit. There's so many different ways and methods and people you can go to check out how to do this properly. But I would highly recommend everybody out there seriously think about a grazing plan and ask yourself, okay, am I able to do this plan? Because not everybody has the kind of situation where I can move them every single day. And you see the results as this whole place was goldenrod, and that ain't a good thing.
And that's where stuff was growing. There was bare dirt, just mud in a lot of places.
Yeah. So it went from goldenrod, and we got a lot of awesome looking fescue out there right now. We got a lot of other things growing, and you obviously want a combination of a lot of things out there, but you're not going to get it if you don't move them. So you got to keep them moving. You got to keep them on their bicycle, so to speak. And right now is you probably should have already put a grazing plan together before spring got here. But if you didn't, I can't emphasize that enough. You want to get a good grazing plan in order to where you're not having to, find yourself on that hay habit. So I can't emphasize that enough. So definitely this spring, consider that. So, as far as those trees also, I want to also point out the fact that Craigslist, believe it or not, is actually not a bad place to get trees.
Etsy is another good place too.
You got to be careful with Etsy when it comes to seeds or even.
Well, no, trees.
No, I'm talking, for trees. Yeah, it's a good place as well. We've used them as well. But you want to be careful about ordering seeds from certain places these days. I mean, there's been a lot of nefarious stuff going on. But people are asking, like, there's a place down the road from us. I don't want to badmouth them or nothing. They're actually closer to Asheville. What they're charging for a potted tree, they're taking basically a bare root tree, sticking that thing in a.
Oh, they're marketing towards the Asheville crowd.
Yeah, I just can't even. We go by there every once in a while, just kind of look around and get some ideas, and I can't even believe these people sleep at night for what they're charging for a potted tree. But you can avoid all that if you can find a place that has bare roots right now, and then also find a place perhaps on Etsy or Craigslist. That is a really good place to go find some stuff. And folks, with what's going on right now with us courting World War III, I mean, like literally trying to start it right now, you better be thinking about those plan Bs. And I'm not going to belabor the point, but I don't know how many times I've talked about how everybody just went right back in the matrix. What I didn't predict is how quickly it would happen. And everybody's kind of gone.
Yeah.
Yeah, they've gone right back into the matrix.
The next day.
I'm still blown away at, even though your grocery costs are like the same, even though all these, we're courting World War III right now, our non-interventionist president, right? It reminds me of Woodrow Wilson. He kept us out of war, and then next thing you know, we're in World War I. Well, it looks like a lot of the same stuff might be very well happening right now. I don't know. But if you're going back into the matrix and you're thinking, okay, well, I'll just go to the grocery store. If you want to blow your money on that, you knock yourself out. But that's not where I choose to blow mine. So, folks, trust me, there's a reason why I say stay alert, stay alive, because things are definitely getting crazy out there. Steve says, guy on Etsy sold me gummies that turned out to be autumn olives. Yeah, that is a danger out there too. But the good thing about Craigslist is that 9 times out of 10, you're looking at these people face to face. That's why I prefer Craigslist, because he says, yep, my dad's friend said his sold off his preps and bought a boat. Yeah. Sons of Hacks. Yeah, I think I know who that is. So anyway, yeah, when it comes to a lot of this stuff in terms of the trees, I like Craigslist because you probably had to go to the person's place to go get it. And they're going to be less likely to pull some shenanigans and that's why I prefer that, because they're going to be less likely to try to rob you if they know where they live.
That's exactly why I don't want to go to Craigslist. I don't want to go to anybody's place. I want them to mail it to me. I don't want to show up at somebody's house.
Not me. Not me. I want to go there and I will. But then you have other things like trees for everyone. Yeah, plants for everyone.
There's nurseries that sell on Etsy too. And somebody left a comment on there saying he's bought stuff from people repeatedly, like he's developed a relationship. There's, just like with anything, there are reputable people on whatever platform. You just have to, there's nurseries that I buy stuff from off of Etsy. And I mean, I've gotten good stuff. It's still alive. So you just have to be careful wherever you go.
Yeah. Margie says most of my fruit trees came from Kroger grocery. Yeah. A lot of Walmart trees I've gotten, or some from Tractor Supply that were on the discount rack, or I found some that they were about to throw in a dumpster, a couple of pairs, and I got them out there right now. Had to stake them the first year, even though I hate doing that sort of thing. They were a lot larger than I would have preferred. I always want to get the smallest tree possible, because they're going to have the best roots when you get off and running. If you get a tree that's already in a pot, bare root is always the best way to go. But yeah, if you got to get them in a pot, that's fine. But yeah, I'm right there with you. I mean, there's a whole lot of grocery store trees that are sitting out here too. Learn how to splice. Not sure what you mean by that. Anyway, folks, look, they mean grafting. I think that's what they mean. Learn how to splice. I think they mean grafting. Yes. So, which is basically splicing. So yeah, anyway, that's a real good way. If you can get some rootstock and then buy some scion wood, or down the road, I've been meaning to do this for the last couple of years. They got a couple of 2-3 apple trees down there that are resistant to cedar rust. Mm-hmm. They're literally growing under an evergreens, and there is no cedar rust on them. Are they the best tasting apple in the world?
They weren't bad.
They weren't bad, but they weren't fantastic either. I mean, they weren't, it's not an Evercrisp.
If you were hungry, you would eat it.
And that's precisely what I'm talking about. But it's like people that criticize Greg Judy because he has small sheep. I'd rather have a sheep that's alive, that I didn't have to put anything into it. I'd rather have a 60 pounds, not 60, maybe a 40-pound sheep that's healthy than one that's 80 pounds or 100 pounds that I had to put twice the money in, mm-hmm. or, that's still alive.
Right.
So yeah, when it comes down to it, I mean, permaculture, preparedness, and practical living. Sons of Hacks knows what I'm talking about. I would rather, in fact, I'm going to be sending them some of that scion wood as soon as I get a chance. But that's exactly what we want. We want things that are reliable. It's not the best tasting apple in the world. It's definitely not the worst, but it is absolutely, all three of those over there are absolutely resistant to cedar rust. So that's a tree you definitely want to propagate. So we'll be all about it. All right, y'all. Anything else you want to add?
I don't think so.
All right, y'all. I want to thank you so much for being here tonight. Thanks everybody for being here. Until next time, stay alert.
Stay alive.
Channel and nature, let the knowledge ring. Roots that run deep, wisdom from soul. Permaculture dream, let the ideas unfold. I'm grooving with the truth. Feeling nature's groove. Who's got the answers? All we need to do, listen to the earth, they got us through. Plant the seeds of the change, watch the world spin. From the smallest sprout to harmony begin. In the cycle of life, where the magic's alive.